Hello viewers, how are you? As I am Dr. Jetling Yellosa, as you well aware that I am running a channel titled as a Law Speeches in the YouTube. In this channel I am posting my lectures on various facets of law and also the world affairs. So today I am discussing the another important topic which affects every household, that is the Domestic Violence Act of 2005. So before embarking my lecture, I request all of you to become a members in my channel. By becoming a member, you can encourage me for creating the more lectures. So these lectures are only meant for enlightenment of the legal knowledge and also the contemporary world knowledge. So I told you that today we are discussing the Domestic Violence Act. You know, the Constitution of India is a sacrosanct document and which overrides all the enactments made by the Parliament, because the principles which are enshrined in the Constitution of India are golden principles. And Constitution of India provides equal opportunities under the Part 3rd of the Constitution of India. As you well aware that Part 3rd is very important part in the Constitution of India, which speaks about the fundamental rights. You know, our Indian society is a discriminated society since ancient times. Male and female, they have been discriminated a lot in all the respect, whether it is a social, economic, civil. In all the respects they have been discriminated from time to time. For at the time of making of the Constitution of India, it was felt that we should eliminate all sorts of discrimination, and India also assigned some important international covenants like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948 and also other declarations. Subsequently, it has signed the Political and Civil Rights Covenants of 1966, Socio-Economic Rights of Covenants of the 1966, and also number of instruments have been signed. So generally, all the instruments speaks about the gender justice. So with regard to that, we are incorporated Article 14, 15, 16, 17 and 18 in our constitutions. So Article 14 talks about the equalities. Basically, equality before law and also equal protection of laws. I just told you that the gender discrimination is a very wide in our country. To fill up that gap, this Article 14 is provided. And which speaks about all are equal before the law. Law is a supreme. Everybody has to follow the law, and law also protects all of us, life, liberty, limb, all those things the law has to protect. For upliftment of the women and children, because they have been discriminated since centuries together, we are added Article 15, clause number 3. Special provisions can be created for the upliftment for the women and children. And Article 16, as you know, that which speaks about the public employment, equal opportunities for public employment. There also, the special provisions have been created for women and children. That is the reason we are saying in government sectors, legislative sectors, and many public sectors, we have seen the positive discrimination in the form of reservations. Why? To attain the equality of the social status, social strata in the society. And I told you that gender justice is a need of the hour. The government from time to time enacted innumerable enactments from the pre-constitution days to the latest, from Sita Act of 1923 to the recent enactments, the Immoral Traffic Act, Dowry Prohibition Act. So from time to time, government is taking measures for the gender discrimination. But what about the discrimination which a woman receives in the house? To deal that, we have enacted Domestic Violence Act of 2005. So Domestic Violence Act of 2005, though enacted in 2005, it came into force from the 26th of June 2006, when it was officially published in the Official Gazette of India. So before going into depth of this Domestic Violence Act, we should know what is meant by violence. Basically, violence is 4 types. One is physical violence. The second is sexual violence. Number 3 is psychological violence. And last one is the neglecting. That is also a kind of violence. So physical violence, as you know, that beating, causing hurt, doing things upon. So all this constitutes the physical violence. Then sexual violence, so without consent. Sexuality has been caused to a woman. Though consent is there, it is obtained by force, by fraud, or some illicit methods, and consent is obtained of a minor. So all this constitutes sexual violence. It may be rape, it may be outraging the modesty of the woman, it may be nowadays, because of the advent of the information technology, taking pictures, videos, and putting in the social media channels. All this constitutes the sexual violence. The third one is physical violence. So physical violence is a violence by act, by behavior, putting the woman into thinking, psychologically causing her fear, psychologically causing effect upon the mind. All these things have been called as a psychological violence. The neglect, the another last form of violence is a neglect violence. So neglecting the means leaving behind, not at all listening to her, becoming a mute spectator to her problems, is called as a neglecting violence. So to deal all these sorts of things, because whatever laws, Indian Penal Code, other laws which are there, which may protecting the woman outside. But what violence if a woman receives within the four walls of the house? And ours is to attain the gender justice. Ours is a egalitarian society. So with that view, the Domestic Violence Act is enacted, and basically this act is divided into number of chapters. Like total chapters are 5 chapters are there. Then there are 37 sections have been there in this act. So Domestic Violence Act, the section 2 specifically provides certain important definitions, and also those include the under section 2 class B, it providing the child. Under this act, child is considered as a child when she is below the age of 18 years. But if you go for the child labor legislations, other legislations, there the child is defined in different way. Some legislation talks about the 16 years, some legislation talks about the 14 years in labor legislations. But here it is a 18 years. Then the Domestic Violence Act also provides another important feature, that under the provisions, that is under section 2, the subsection N, protection officers. So if a woman is suffering with any sort of domestic violence, the state has to provide a platform. The platform is protecting officers are there. They have to protect that woman, not to remove such suffrages from the housemates or house members. Then section 2 also speaks about the aggrieved person. As you know, aggrieved person is a woman who is suffering in the hands of the family members or house members, be called as a aggrieved person. Then section 2 class C provides the compensation order. So here magistrates have been empowered to give a compensation. If any house member causing any sort of pain, injury, suffrages, then they are liable to pay compensation to such aggrieved women. That also been provided. Then we have the section 2 class F provides the domestic relation. So what is meant by domestic? What is the relation? The family. Family is consisting of husband, wife, father-in-law, mother-in-law, then the near relatives. So there it has been, these are because persons have been called as domestic relation persons. Then the Domestic Violence Act also speaks about the under section 2, the subclass or class J, the medical facilities. So if the suffering woman requires any kind of medical facility, it is the state has to provide the medical facility. That also been there. Then monetary relief also been there. The under section 2 class number K, providing of monetary relief. Then section 2 class number P also provides residential order. Means a woman who is residing in that order, in that house, has a right to reside. She cannot force it to go away from that house by any sort of. So she has a right to reside because it is her house. Maybe originally it is not her acquired house, but legally she has certain rights to reside. So that also provided here. Then there is a section 2 class number S, which provides shared household articles, then the woman has a right to have the share. Household article like sofa, chair, vessels, stove, gas, all these are TV, radio, these all are articles. She can share those articles with their family members. Then another important provision is made under Domestic Violence Act is that which in section 2, that is the last T, subclass T, which provides shelter homes. If the conditions in the house are not amenable, conducive, then that such women can be given the relief by the state. For that, the state has to create the shelter homes. Then that women should be admitted in such shelter homes. Then these are the things which are there under section 2, but section 3 also important sections which provides what is meant by violence. So here I just told you, so violence means a physical violence, sexual violence, psychological violence, and neglecting violence. So all those will constitutes violence, like chiding a woman, unnecessarily uttering the words against the woman, and beating the woman, abusing the woman, injuring the woman, neglecting the woman. All those comes under the violence. So that is the beauty of the section 3. So elaborately it has been enlisted these things. Then another important aspect which provided under chapter 3, as I just told you, that protection officers. So the state has to provide the protecting officers to protect the rights of the woman. If suppose a woman is abused, injured, and she has suffering a lot within the family members, then she can approach the protecting officers, and the protecting officers can start process for giving or upholding the rights of the such abused woman, such victim. Then we have section 12 to section 29, which speaks about the chapter 4, which speaks about the procedure for obtaining order. Then the women, such abused women or aggrieved women, can approach the authorities like the judicial first class magistrates, and also to file an order or any kind of order which I told you that for maintenance order, compensation order, shared household articles order, shelter home order, all those you can claim from the judicial first class magistrates. And also the last section, the last chapter, which speaks about the miscellaneous provisions. So miscellaneous provisions have been enumerated from section 30 to 37 of the Act. There, if the officers in discharge of their duties, if they commit omissions or commissions, they are not liable because they are done as per the good faith in discharging their duties. So that is also provided here. And in addition to this, we have and now we discuss some case laws with regard to the Domestic Violence Act. Then in a Supreme Court, in a case called the Lalita Topa versus State of Jharkhand and another, reported in 2018, reiterates that the Domestic Violence Act not only applicable after the marriage. The Domestic Violence Act is applicable even in live-in relations. So there is no need of marriage. And because they are living together. When they are living together, they may, some sort of violence may be coming from spouse or from household members. If that is there, that also be called as a domestic violence. Then another important case, the Hiralal Harsora and another versus Kusum Narottam Harsora and another. The case is reported in 2016. There, this court has opined, Supreme Court has opined that the Domestic Violence Act not only applicable to females but also males can also knock the door of the law if there is a violence in the hands of the females. And so why? Because Article 14 talks about the equalities, equal protection of laws, equality before laws. So Supreme Court has opined in that way, and some more another important judgments are there, but I have quoting only 2 judgments. And while I'm recording this my video, maybe in some way the violence is going on. If you refer to the National Crime Record Bureau, Ministry of Home Affairs, day by day the domestic violence cases have been skyrocketing, and the technology has resulted into manifold increase of domestic violence, and the governments and NGOs and other public spirited persons have been waging a very heroic battle for mitigating the domestic violence, but the domestic violence is going on. And to give access to victims of domestic violence, the government are taking number of measures under the different schemes, but still it is going on. And it is also running a helpline phone number, that is number I am now stating, that is 879 30 83 8814. Once again, 879 30 88814. So if anybody suffering any kind of domestic violence, because violence from the other sources is a difference from that of the violence being committed by their own family members. It's very pity that as and today in a computer age also we have seen this sort of situation. When there is a gender justice is not available, whatever laws are there, we are making number of laws, but all laws may some extent may succeed, but fuller extent they may not succeed. So there should be change of attitude of the family, society towards respecting the rights or attainment of the gender justice. Thank you for patiently hearing my lecture, and once again I request you to subscribe to my channel. The title of the channel is Law Speeches. If you feel that my lectures are informative and knowledgeable, please share among your communities. Thank you, one and all.